Be careful when using your phone. The hidden impacts on your brain. We live in a world where our phones are practically glued to our hands. We check them first thing in the morning and last thing at night. But what if I told you that the device you're holding right now could be slowly changing the way your brain works, without you even realizing it? In today's video, we are diving into the hidden impacts of phone use on your brain. It's not just about the distractions or wasted time, but the deeper, more subtle changes that could be affecting your memory, focus, mental health, and even how you connect with others. Stick around, because what you're about to learn might make you think twice before picking up your phone the next time. The smartphone revolution, a double-edged sword. The advent of smartphones revolutionized the way we live, work, and communicate. With a device that fits in our pocket, we can access an endless world of information, stay connected to loved ones, work from anywhere, and entertain ourselves at any moment. It's hard to imagine a time when we didn't have these tiny supercomputers at our fingertips. While smartphones have brought about incredible convenience and opportunities, they've also introduced new challenges we never saw coming. The constant connection to work, social media, and news has made us more accessible and informed, but it's also made us more vulnerable to stress, distraction, and mental overload. What was once a tool to enhance productivity has now become a source of constant interruptions and anxiety. And let's not forget the addictive nature of our phones. With each notification, vibration, or message, our brain gets a little dopamine hit, a small rush of pleasure. The result, we find ourselves checking our phones more often than we'd like to admit. It's a double-edged sword. While smartphones connect us, they also disconnect us from reality and can slowly erode our mental health if we are not careful. The dopamine trap. How phones hijack your brain. Ever notice how you can resist checking your phone the moment you hear the notification? That's because smartphones are masters at triggering a part of your brain called the dopamine system. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in our brain's reward system. It's responsible for making us feel good when we achieve something, whether that's a small win at work or a positive interaction on social media. But here's the thing, smartphones and social media apps are designed to hijack this system. Every time we get a like on a post, a message from a friend, or a new notification, our brain releases a dose of dopamine. This creates a cycle of instant gratification, and like any addictive behavior, it becomes hard to resist. The problem is that this constant cycle of dopamine hits is training our brains to crave more, faster, and more often. Over time, this leads to a kind of addiction, where the need for new notification and instant rewards overshadows our ability to focus on anything else. What makes it even worse is that this addiction doesn't just stop with social media. Every app, email, or text message is engineered to keep you engaged, pulling your attention away from important tasks and causing a disruption in your ability to focus and think clearly. The more we give in to these dopamine triggers, the harder it becomes to break free and reclaim our mental space. Attention and focus. Phones are making us dumber. If you have ever found yourself scrolling mindlessly through social media or jumping between multiple apps, you're not alone. Research shows that constant phone use is affecting our ability to concentrate and think deeply. The human brain is wired to focus, but when we are interrupted by notifications, messages, or alerts, our attention gets fragmented. This is where the problem begins. The average person checks their phone over 80 times a day, and each time we pick it up, our brain has to refocus. This constant shifting between tasks doesn't just slow us down, it diminishes our ability to retain information. Studies have shown that multitasking actually makes us less efficient, and the more we rely on our phones, the harder it becomes to engage in activities that require sustained focus, like reading, problem solving, or even having meaningful conversations. What's worse is the prolonged exposure to this constant disruption weakens our brain's ability to stay on task. Over time, our attention span shrinks. We became accustomed to quick, shallow bursts of information, making it harder to engage with the long-form content of complex ideas. While phones were designed to make life easier, they are slowly making us dumber by reducing our brain's capacity to concentrate, learn, and process information deeply. The sleep-stealing habit. Phones before bed. It's no secret that many of us end our day by scrolling through our phones, but did you know that this habit could be wrecking your sleep? Studies have shown that the blue light emitted from screens interferes with the production of melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating the sleep cycle. When we use our phone at night, especially right before bed, we disrupt our body's natural sleep cycle, making it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. But the problems don't stop at melatonin. The act of scrolling through social media or checking emails also keeps your brain alert and active, making it difficult to wind down. Instead of relaxing, our minds stay engaged with new information, updates, and notifications, causing mental overstimulation that directly impacts the quality of our rest. This creates a vicious cycle. The more your sleep is disrupted, the more tired you feel, leading to an increased reliance on your phone to stay alert during the day, which further damages your sleep patterns. Lack of quality sleep has a direct impact on your brain function, affecting memory, cognitive performance, and even emotional regulation. So while your phone might feel like a comforting companion at night, it's actually stealing your rest and over time taking a toll on your mental health and overall well-being. Anxiety and stress, the psychological toll of phone use. Smartphones were supposed to make our lives easier, but for many of us, they have become a source of anxiety and stress. Every ping, vibration, or notification triggers a reaction in our brains, one that often induces feelings of urgency, pressure, and sometimes even fear. For many, their phones are a constant reminder of unfinished work, unanswered messages, or social media comparisons. This constant influx of information and expectations can leave us feeling overwhelmed. Social media, in particular, has been linked to higher levels of anxiety. The pressure to appear perfect online, the fear of missing out, and the constant comparison to others can create feelings of inadequacy and isolation. Studies have shown that people who spend more time on social media tend to experience higher levels of stress and lower levels of self-esteem. Furthermore, the constant bombardment of news and notifications keeps our mind in a state of hyper-alertness, raising our cortisol levels, the hormone associated with stress. The anxiety caused by phone use isn't just emotional, it's physical too. Many people report symptoms of phone stress such as tension, headaches, eye strain, and even neck pain. In a world where we are always connected, it's becoming increasingly difficult to escape the psychological toll that smartphones impose on us. Social interaction. How phones are changing our relationships. Phones have revolutionized the way we communicate, allowing us to stay in touch with friends, family, and colleagues, no matter where we are. But in the process, they have also transformed the nature of our relationships, and not always for the better. While texting, video calls, and social media make communication more convenient, they've also led to decrease in face-to-face interactions, which are essential for building deep, meaningful connections. One of the most significant impacts of phone use on relationships is the decline in the quality of in-person conversations. We've all been there, sitting with someone, but both of you are distracted by your phones. This constant distraction can make us feel less present and emotionally distant from the people we care about. It's harder to bond when we are more focused on our screens than the person sitting right in front of us. Impact on memory. Phones as external storage. In the past, our brains were the primary storage unit for everything we needed to remember: phone numbers, birthdays, directions, and even grocery lists. But today, thanks to our smartphones, we no longer need to store much of the information in our heads. From storing photos to remembering complex passwords, our phones have become external storage devices, taking over the role of our memory. This may seem convenient, but the question is, what does this do to our brains? Studies have shown that when we rely too much on our phones for information, we actually reduce our brain's ability to retain and recall data. This is because our brain's natural memory function starts to weaken when we no longer need to commit things to memory. Instead of working hard to remember something, we know we can just look it up on our phones. While this offloading of memory may seem like a modern convenience, it can have unintended consequences. By outsourcing of so much of the memory to our devices, we could be setting ourselves up for a decline in our cognitive abilities over time. Essentially, we have traded cognitive effort for convenience, and in the process, we may be making our brains less sharp and more dependent on technology to recall even the simplest information. Long-term effects. The brain's adaptation to phone use. When we use our phones for extended periods of time, our brain begins to adapt to the constant flow of information, distractions, and notifications. At first, it might seem harmless. After all, we are simply checking emails, scrolling through social media, or looking something up on Google. But over time, our brains adjust to this new way of functioning, and the long-term effect can be profound. One of the most noticeable changes is the decline in our ability to focus and sustain attention. Studies suggest that as we continue to use smartphones and constantly switch between apps, our brains begin to rewire themselves to handle multiple tasks at once. While this might sound like a good thing, it actually makes it more difficult for us to concentrate deeply on any one of the tasks for long periods of time. The constant pull of notification trains our brains to seek instant gratification, which can lead to a reduced capacity for patience, problem solving, and deep thinking. So there you have it, the hidden impacts of phone use on your brain. It's clear that while phones are incredible tools, they come with a few downsides we can't ignore. But the good news, we can take control and make smarter choices about how we use them. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little reminder to take a break from their phone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.